like to just interject real quick. The WMMA, Marshall Street, is a member of this program.
Barbara, hopefully us in the Norristown initiative will invite you back and you can come speak to us at one of our meetings.
Okay.
Thank you. Very interesting. Okay, next we're going to go down to Mike Crescitelli. Did I say that right?
Yes, Crescitelli.
Crescitelli, close. Okay. He's here representing Norristown's Police Department in place of Russell Bonner. So the floor is yours, Mike.
This is last minute for me, so I didn't have time to prepare anything, unfortunately, so I'm just going to wing it. I've been here 12 years now, and actually right now, West Marshall Street, at least appearance-wise, looks better than ever. I know you have a lot to do with that. But the sidewalks look great, businesses look great. It's no surprise that we still have a quality of life problem, especially with the kids after school. The homeless people, although water doesn't appear to be isn't a problem we used to have. More police officers would definitely help, but obviously with the financial problem we have, we're going to have to deal with what we have. Like Hank had said earlier, when he was around, we had officers on the beat. We do have sometimes officers riding bicycles. I wish we could do that more often, but manpower limits that. But I think quality of life, a lot of those things come down. They're mostly young juveniles, the problems we have. The parents would accept some type of responsibility for their kids' actions. That's where we have to work at. I mean, even when we find these kids, we arrest them, we bring them back to the station, charge them whatever. It seems like the parents stick up for the kids, or why you pick on my kid. They don't look at the fact that their kids did something wrong, so something's got to be done there. That comes from the house. Where we can begin with that, I couldn't even answer. But like I said, we're working with what we have. We need more responsible. We need people to call us. We need Town Watch. Is there anyone here from Town Watch now?
I am.
I know you are. We need more people at Town Watch, and the Town Watch people we do have, it seems like they don't even call us a lot. When they do call us, it's for a parking problem. They have to get more involved. I know they're doing what they can, but and I know a lot of times they're even scared to call, walking around. I know they're threatened, so it's tough on them. But we need more people to become involved with the Town Watch. That will definitely help make the police job easier. And even people who aren't involved in Town Watch, if you see something going on your block, you need to call us. And I know when a lot of people do call, they don't want to give their name because they're afraid. When we show up, the problem has already moved on, so we don't locate it. So we leave, and then the problem starts up again because we weren't able to do anything about it. We need people to start giving us their names so we can talk to them, tell us exactly what the problem is, and so we can get it resolved the first time we're out there. That's really about it. We need, with the number of police officers we have, again, I don't want to get into that because obviously we have a major financial problem. We need help from the community. You have to be police. You have to police your town as well to assist us. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mike. And on that issue of you're talking about parenting, I guess to a degree,
yes.
Need for youth. Maybe you might want to visit our next forum on the 18th. Human Services, where we'll be addressing that issue of parenting.
Okay.
I think it would be very good to have somebody from the police department there. Listen to what some of the other experts will say in that area. Okay, now, cleanup. Jerry Stump from the Governor's Office. Jerry, the floor is all yours.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be with you today, even though it's a little rainy out. And I just want to give you a little bit of background, first of all, on the governor's office and myself, to put in perspective what I'm going to talk about, and then we can get into discussions. And then after the questions and answers, I'll be happy to stay around as long as anybody would like that has other questions today. First of all, just by way of background, when I got out of college, I was with the County Planning Commission, so I have appreciation for county problems like Montgomery County has, in addition to the urban areas. I was with a planning consulting firm. We did a lot of revitalization work. Then I was director of planning in York, Pennsylvania, similar to Norristown, a little bit bigger, and was redevelopment authority director there too for a while. Then I was director of local government urban affairs committees for the legislature, and we worked on the planning code and enabling statutes, the KOZ legislation I was involved in drafting. And then I was in private consulting when the governor, who obviously wanted to make a priority turning Norristown's and the urban areas of Pennsylvania around like they once were, and called me and said, how about becoming a part of the new governor's office of housing and revitalization? Never existed before in Pennsylvania history, brand new office. So he really has a commitment. We try to troubleshoot and work with municipalities to solve problems, make things happen. I'm involved in working on a new housing and revitalization strategy along with our office, with the funders of the state and the various community groups and organizations. But by way of background, I just want to pat the back the West Marshall Street Merchants Association and Alex and Joel Egan and Dave Serini. I've been around the country a lot looking at revitalization. I've been around Pennsylvania a lot looking at revitalization. This project you have in this building is one of the finest examples in this country, not just in Pennsylvania, of what neighborhood residents, what businesses working with a good developer that wants to give back to the community can do. And I can tell you that most municipalities in Pennsylvania would love to have the kind of businesses that are working with developers as Dave to turn the communities around. That's what it's going to take. And a lot of what I'm going to say today is going to focus on that because it is a public partnership, and unless you have both sides giving more than 50%, it can't be successful. It takes that. So when I was asked today, well, how do you turn urban areas around, Dave asked me. Why don't you talk about that? And I thought about that a lot, and I thought, well, before we start talking about how do you do that, well, we better look at what failed in the past. One of the things in the past, when I was in planning, we'd do a comprehensive plan for a community for 20 years. That was the standard. Who can plan for 20 years today? I mean, you can barely know what's going to happen 5 years from now. Technology is changing so fast, the worldwide economy, I mean, things change fast today. So you really can't plan that far out. But in the past, that's what we did. The other thing we did, there wasn't community development block grant money, which is an entitlement to a community, so that every year you know you're getting $1 million, and you can plan and start setting your priorities and fund it. Then they were categorical programs. If the federal government had money for parks, you built parks whether you need it or not, whether it was the right timing and it was strategically the thing to do, because 3 years from now when you want to build parks, the money might not be there. That didn't work too well, but that's how planning worked. Demolition. Rather than save a building like this and some other examples in a lot of communities, the idea was if it's old or it looks like it's deteriorating, let's tear it down. We'll have urban renewal, massive clearance, and then what do? You put a for sale sign up and hope a developer comes. Didn't work. The other thing, there was no marketing of the older neighborhoods and communities. You market suburban development, but there was no marketing program for older neighborhoods, and I'm heavily involved in marketing older neighborhoods right now to hopefully have a statewide strategy to help communities like Norristown. The other thing, business owners weren't involved. The planners come out and said, here's what we're going to do for you. Or to neighborhood residents that weren't heavily commercial, here's what we're going to do. It doesn't work. If in fact residents and businesses aren't involved in the planning process, it's not going to be successful. The other thing on economic development, most economic development people don't understand community development. I was talking to Dave and his wife before this meeting. Economic development people think, well, you attract a business that employs 300 people and we're going to get all excited about that and we're going to have government programs to help locate the business. What about all these business people that are starting out as entrepreneurs? What about the 37 new businesses that opened up on West Marshall Street? The point is, they're businesses too. And you aggregate those numbers, and then various neighborhoods in Norristown, including Main Street, and that's the future of economic development and turning around our communities. It's not necessarily some industry coming in, although that's important, and we need jobs, and we need to emphasize that. But we can't emphasize economic development and all the funding that goes to economic development without equally putting money in our neighborhoods, in areas like West Marshall Street, and into community development. And I think what's different today is the fact that we recognize this. Revitalization isn't aesthetically driven. You can't do a facade program or a streetscape and think that it's going to work unless you're attracting niche businesses and the kind of businesses. Let's say, for example, if this area didn't have a dry cleaners. I don't know if it does or doesn't, but the point is, start thinking about the kind of businesses you need in your community, and you go after them. In other communities, nationally, perhaps a chain, whatever, but the point is that you just don't put a for rent sign in the window and expect you're going to get businesses, or vacant places are going to be filled with merchants. It's the kind of work that Dave and the West Marshall Street Merchants Association, what they've done in the last couple of years, it's hard work. Like, I don't like to say it because somebody said that recently, no comment, but the point is, it takes a lot of time and effort. And a lot of people think aesthetics drive revitalization. You make it more attractive, everything will work out fine. What happens is, slowly that deteriorates. In 10 or 15 years, you do urban renewal again, and it's vacant. It's got to be market-driven. You have to do new housing and market-rate housing and expendable income. That's not to the detriment of senior citizens, people with disabilities, but we need market-rate housing in our communities to support the new businesses and shops like we have here. And that's where the state's emphasis has to be down the road. As far as strategic planning, the governor's office, what we're trying to do is, before in Pennsylvania, all the programs were categorical. Everybody talks about silos. And we're trying to break down the silos and merge the money into programs to be more flexible. You have a good idea, so you don't hear, no, we can't fund it. No, it doesn't fit the program requirements. No, it's just for this. The point is, we have a pool of money, if you will, for revitalization in the broadest sense. That's a great idea. Let's do some matching money, and we're going to go with that. For example, strategic investment officers. Right now in Pennsylvania, if you were a developer and there were 40 different state funding programs, that developer had to deal with 40 different individuals in the various departments. And many times, a program manager is so narrow in his vision with a laser on that program, he doesn't see how it interrelates to another program in another agency. And what's being done is the fact that revitalization is revitalization is revitalization. It has a housing component. It has a transportation component. It has a recreation component. And wherever they are in all those state agencies, the people that manage those programs are now coming together. But the state is now sending somebody out. For example, I'm working with Brownsville out near Pittsburgh. And my job is to help them work through all of the problems so that we can get the funding for code enforcement and start revitalization to help the developers that are going to do the revitalization. I think with the new programs, Elm Street, Main Street, the governor's been down in Norristown, there's new blight legislation, there's a lot of good things. But I'm here to tell you today that the key to success is making your community business developer friendly. That's what the state is doing. That's what we're trying to do. Development isn't a game. Developers and lenders aren't the bad guys. If the state is trying to expedite the process, so if you have good developers that are willing to turn your community around and do the kinds of things we see here today that West Marshall Street and Dave Serini has done to help the people that live here, to provide the kinds of things that people will live here in the future, will want to be a part of this community and start a business. This takes the cooperation of local government. I'm not just talking about Norristown, I'm talking about every borough and every city in Pennsylvania. The state has to make it easier for developers to get the funding they need to facilitate turning around, rehabilitating, building new housing, all the components of revitalization. But the community has a role to play. When the governor went out statewide, he talked to the commissioners and the people in the regions and the cities and said, you prioritize, get ready to go. We're going to work with who's ready to roll and move and make it happen. That takes dynamic local elected leadership. It takes somebody to drive this. It takes somebody to get somebody excited about the community, to get a bank excited who's going to fund it, to get a state or federal official with a funding program excited. Because why? Because they can see the results. It's going to happen in this community. Are they going to invest in a community where, yeah, they have some good ideas, yeah, they have some good people that want to do some good things? Is there any indication there's any commitment, or there's going to be any return on the investment, or that development is ever going to come to fruition, or is it wishful thinking maybe in 10 years? I'll guarantee you, there's not enough time and there's not enough money in the world, the state or federal government, to talk about wishful thinking. You need dynamic leadership to work with a dynamic developer like Dave Sereni, with a dynamic group like the West Marshall Street Merchants Association, together do a public-private partnership and turn Norristown around. There's too many examples nationally, there's too many examples in Pennsylvania. Norristown can do it too. How do you do that? I mean, that's easy to say that, but what are you talking about, Stump? Let me give you an example of a planner story I tell quick. When I was director of planning and we have a subdivision plan to approve or a zoning approval, the developer comes in. I'm going out of my way to make it easier. Some planners say, you know, come back in 30 days with that site development plan on a larger scale. You say, well, the ordinance says, you know, whatever to an inch. The guy says, I don't care, come back in 30 days. Guess what? The developer has an option of the property. For him, for that 30 days, the clock's ticking, the meter's running, it's costing a lot of money. The rentals are going to go up higher on a building like this for that 30-day delay by the planning director for no reason other than to see that in a larger scale map. That's baloney. That's costed money, and you may tick off a developer and say, you know what, I'm going to build that in another community, and they're going to be the beneficiary. There's no reason for it. You've got to go out of your way to the building permits, zoning approvals, any approvals. Expedite the process and help the developer do what the community wants and neighborhood residents and businesses want. Let me give you a perfect example. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was down in Philadelphia. Here's a report that was commissioned. It's called If We Fix It, They Will Come, a report from the Building Industry Association of Philadelphia. 10,000 Friends of Pennsylvania, American Institute of Architects, Central Philadelphia Development Council, Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania, and a bunch of other ones. And what they did is they said, why isn't more development happening in Philadelphia? Why isn't more housing being built in Philadelphia? And they have 10 reasons. And for each reason, they have something that's needed to be done. 1, create a step-by-step guide of the review process. Right now in Philly, there's no roadmap on how to apply for up to 14 different permit review agencies in the city. 2, create a faster, predictable process for development. Right now, the process requires a developer to wait in line for hours, and there's no standards or time frames on paper. You just stand in line. 3, limit timely inspections to the approved plan. What's done now? Inspections take days and weeks and months, and inspectors always are adding new requirements to the approved plan. Is that discouraging to a developer? Create one map that includes all zoning restrictions. L&I right now has 50 different maps. My point is, Philadelphia is no different than a lot of cities and a lot of Norristowns and a lot of boroughs in the state. But the point is, it doesn't have to be that way, and if you want revitalization, it's got to stop and it's got to change. It isn't just economic development. That may be the sexy stuff, but a municipality has to take a look at itself internally. What kind of processes do we have that are stymieing private investment, are stymieing people from wanting to get in business and turning vacant buildings around into apartment buildings or new shops and offices and businesses. And whatever it is that we're contributing to the problem as a municipality, let's change it. The mayor can change it, council can change it, all it takes is an ordinance. But Philadelphia isn't the only area that has these kind of problems. However, Allentown's a perfect example. They have a one-stop shop. You walk into the code place, all the permits are one place. Matter of fact, it was funny. When they first started it, they got all the agencies in a building, and make a long story short, they had a piece of tape going down, so it divided a lot of them into 3 sections. And the mayor said, no, you don't get the concept. So he pulled up the tape. It's one counter. Everybody there, and the rules are known to the developers as to what you have to do, where you have to get it, and the word is out to them. We're talking about turning this around quickly, not like business as usual. Okay, a couple quick things and I'll finish. State rehab code, we just passed in Pennsylvania, to take a building like this, and 2nd and 3rd stories, vacant space. It used to be that if you were a developer and you wanted to do something with that vacant space, and you drive through our towns and cities in Pennsylvania, and you look up and you see not only vacant 1st floor space, but even where you have a live business in the 1st floor ground level, all the vacant space above it is that way. It's been that way for 30 years, I mean, when I was in York. Why? If you wanted to do something that, you had to build to the BOCA code for new construction. And it might be $100,000 to do the 2nd and 3rd stories to rehab it. New Jersey, a couple years ago, got the bright idea, these buildings have been here for 100 years. They're going to be here for another 100 years if we do something, hopefully. So they had a rehab code, and it says, this isn't new construction, taking an old building and retrofitting it for a functional use like Dave did here. So why should we have to build to new construction codes? You build to a rehab code. It's safe for the public. It's much less costly, and it works. You can turn it around fast and take this vacant space in our urban areas and make it productive. And what does that do? It changes quality of life. You have more people in the streets. You have more activity, more people to support the businesses. If you have apartments in what was vacant 2nd and 3rd story space upstairs, and your community is alive and vital, and there's people there again. Growth management. In the future, we're talking about the traffic and the problems of the suburbs. People are going to want to invest in areas like Norristown. This is the future. I'm telling you, 20 years from now, you're not going to be able to touch some of the vacant property in our cities and boroughs that exist today in Pennsylvania. But the point is, you have to have a strategic game plan. You have to have cooperation of the local government and the building community, the business community, and do it together. The last thing, again, I just want to reiterate the significance and the importance of the public-private partnership. I've followed Norristown over the years. A lot of my good friend was a former director of planning down here, and the potential, as Dave said when he spoke, is phenomenal. It is a beautiful town. I give Dave credit. How many developers are hometown boys who come back and want to make their hometown what it was, what they remember? That's really a credit. You don't have that. So we need to work with developers who want to do that. And Norristown, like I said, has the potential to be what it once was. May not be exactly, neither will any of our third-class cities, because the major department stores are never coming back. But they can be vital, integral parts of our economy and beautiful places that people want to live and raise families in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. That was very, very informative, and hopefully now what I was saying earlier about our government, hearing what you have to say, our local government will take to heart, and now we have another set of ears from our local government stepped in while you were speaking to build the nation and our council people. Hopefully they'll take to heart along with what Olivia brings from this and takes this information back to our government. Now, one more speaker I'm going to add in. This was a last-minute fill-in, and it was kind of a little bit of a thank you for the great display they put on for us here, food-wise, and it gives more of an example about how this project, this mini mall in incubator, business incubator, is working here in Norristown, because I have with me right now Yolanda Quigley from her little store, who is servicing our needs today for food. She's going to tell you about how their business is now being built right up the street, as well as she's going to tell us about foods that she put out for us here today. Yolanda, you have to speak up.
Again, my name is Yolanda Quigley, and I own a shop with my sister, Tricia Gillen. And I just want to thank Dave for having the opportunity to be here. We offer everything from authentic Mexican desserts to lemon cream cheese bars, cheesecake, pretty much anything. And as you said, we would like to venture out and move on to North and Marshall Streets. Although we would like to keep this spot strictly for desserts, we would like to move and maybe add food to it. This place has been, there's various cultures that come in here. It's been great talking to people. Every week we have different people coming in and shopping.
Rich, right?
I'm not getting rich.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your...
Okay, about our menu. As I said, we offer authentic Mexican sweet rolls. We have the tres leches, which is very popular. It's a sponge cake filled with 3 different milks. We also have flan, like I said, strawberry shortcake, brownies, cupcakes. Every week we try to have a different variety. Our prices, I think, are reasonable, and we really don't need too much advance notice. You can just call us up and tell us what you need, and we'll have it there. We are only open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We'll have different holiday hours, which will be extended starting next week. So I invite everybody to come down and try us out.
And for now, that trying out is for free. Again, everything you just mentioned, plus a whole lot more, right behind us here. And Dave, maybe you'll be able to even pan over there and zoom in on some of that great food. But I can tell you, I'm up to my 4th piece, and I don't have one comment that would be negative about anything I've tried so far this morning. That's a fat, I'm just going to get fat.
Gary?
Yes, Bill.
Last month I got a, how you say,
I was just telling.
Trace leche cake from you, and I took it to some people, and it was the most popular thing.
Isn't that different and delicious?
Ah, it's wonderful.
I've never had anything like that. Great.
Try some of that.
So,
No calories.
I was commenting on that too. Okay, at this point now, I think we're done with our introductions. And again, Jerry, hopefully you'll be able to say more about the interaction of the codes with towns and the development and whatever. That is a hot ticket item here in Norristown. Okay, Dave, if you could for a couple of minutes, and that's why we're getting ready. We're moving into our questions. Just do a quick pan of all the stores around here. Not quick, I should say. Slowly. So when this thing gets there, they can see what is going on up here. And then we're going to go straight into questions and answers. So if anybody wants to take a 2-minute break while Dave is panning around here, try your food up there. They got the special tea, hot chocolate, Mexican coffee. All that stuff. So help yourself out, and be back here in 2 minutes. Dave just came in the store. So you're ready to question.
I thought Gary was going to do that. I don't know. He was just going to get an extension cord.
Okay, this is not really a break, folks. We're going right into questions and answers. Please grab what you're going to take, and then take your seats. Mr. Barry. Okay.
Okay, we'll do an.
Okay, now after that unintended break, we really didn't expect to take off that time, but we did, so it is, and hopefully, Alec, geez, I can see everybody.